What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Friday Fuel. Appreciate you guys coming on here. And if you guys are coming in here, drop in the comments where you guys are coming in from. Guys, if you could probably already tell this is a pre-recording. I'm actually going to be headed on an airplane to New Mexico, go visit my family. It's always good to be able to hang out with the fam. And so that's where I'm actually headed when this podcast is airing. But as you guys are coming in here, drop where you're coming in from, as well as what your weekly win was. For me, I actually finally got my Facebook community up and running for people looking to transition to telesales. I'll actually have the link down below. If you guys want to apply for that, you definitely can. I'm really trying to be selective on who I'm actually bringing in. We had so many people starting to come in and really like trying to get in, but I'm really trying to vet the group so that we have a good community, people actually ready to start learning how to get into telesales, whether they're face-to-face, whether they're even over Zoom, but how do they get to the point of selling over the phone? So yeah, that was my weekly win. So as you guys are coming in here, drop in the comments where you guys are coming in from, as well as what your weekly win was. But guys, I honestly just want to get to it. We have a very special guest today, a guy who's been able to scale multiple seven-figure businesses. You guys may know him. He's been making a ton of noise. And I want to bring him on now, Mr. Carson Porter. Thanks so much for coming on here, man.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, man. Well, honestly, I kind of want to jump right into it. The biggest reason I wanted to bring you on is because, one, I love your authenticity, transparency, just honestly to the industry, not about the rah hype. And you really actually started doing stuff that's really cool with the Rev community, things like that. I definitely want to get into that in a little bit here. But the biggest thing I wanted to ask of like, okay, if somebody's wanting to scale and they're at square one, they're a new agent, walk us through the process of what that looks like to actually get there.
Yeah. So step one, like there's so many reasons agents fail and our failure rate in this industry is so high, right?
Yeah.
But they all really boil down to just a couple things. And the foremost of which is that agents just don't have a focus. They're unfocused. They're chasing too many things. There's a million good ideas in this business, but I always tell, especially the agents that I mentor, the only real $1 million idea is the one you're making $1 million on. Everything else is bullshit. Right.
Yep.
So step number one really is finding a focus, identifying a target market. And when you're finding a focus, finding like that niche you want to be in. You want to be in final expense. It's not my thing, but like, if that's your thing, cool, go for it. If you want to be in telesales, cool, go for it. If you want to be like a full-blown holistic financial advisor, cool, go for it. But you've got to have a focus, identify a target market, and then most importantly is get in front of people who actually give a damn to have the conversation you're trying to have.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I recommend to agents. Like, until you're making, depending on the part of the country you're in, $50,000 to $100,000. Like if you're in country bumpkin, New Mexico or Southern Utah or something like that, 50,000 goes a lot further. If you're in California, New York, you shouldn't be focused on anything but getting in front of more people. Like, quit going to the sales conferences, quit going and networking with other agents. They're not going to pay your bills, right? Yep. Strangers are the ones that are going to make you rich. And you really do have to build a system. We call it a strategic marketing plan, where every single day you are going to go and pull in the amount of business that is going to guarantee your ethical outcome, right? And that's step number one. And until you accomplish that, until you're cash flowing appropriately, you don't do anything else. You don't need to chase big advanced policies. I understand you think they're cool, but it's out of your league. Like, get people to sell to in the first place, and then you can go to step two. So
I love it. Yeah. And that's where I think it's funny because I feel like you're speaking to me like a year ago. So I got in the industry a year ago, and that's how I felt. Like, I was like, all right, I need to go network to people. I need to go, like, the more hands you shake, the more money you'll make, which is right, but it's the right people that you're talking to. And for me, it was like all about networking, going to the sales conferences, going to those things. But it's like, all right, I'm actually going to take a week off to go network because that's really going to push the needle forward. But it was honestly like my cash flow was going nowhere. And I was like, I'm having great conversations, but I'm not making money. Like, what's going on here? But it really took the focus of like getting in front of people. I love what you said. Like, strangers will make you rich. I love it. Because that's what I had to learn pretty early on, which was really hard.
Yeah, it goes really big. And what we push agents to do, because you want to build something that cash flows, but like understand this, the thing that cash flows the fastest is also probably the least scalable. So
Yeah.
when we look at it, like if you're going to go buy internet leads or something like that, it's not super scalable. You only have so much time in a day, and you can bring on more agents and all this stuff, but you're going to burn through them. Like the burn rate on agents who do nothing but buy leads is significantly higher than agents who just pad the coffers with bot leads and they have other things, right? So we want to do several things. We call it an RYG plan, red, yellow, green, right? And every day you need to take action on this. Back in the day when I was going broke, and then I started not going broke, and then we started leading American National Insurance Multi-Line for life and annuity production as their number one agency, which we did for 5 years nationally. And in that period of time, I was scaling, growing, and I had all these marketers, and we found something really unique. If my marketers went out, and let's say they were knocking doors and I needed 50 leads a week, if they went out on a Saturday and got 50 leads, our closing rate on those leads, conversion and close, it might only be 10 or 15%.
Yeah.
If they got 10 per day, 5 days a week, our conversion and close rate might be 20, 30%, significantly higher on the same number of people, just because our processing we were able to process much more effectively. And so we've really built in this RYG plan, like this is daily activity. Daily, you need to do a green activity. Green means if I do it today, I have an opportunity for a transactional event today, right? And I need to do that for probably 2 to 3 hours a day. That could be pounding the phones and doing leads. It could be like if you're not doing telesales, it could be out knocking doors. It could be going down to the strip mall and doing surveys, but it's an opportunity for you to frankly intrude on in a professional way somebody's day, put your hand in theirs, physically or even metaphorically, right? Introduce yourself and ask them to do business with you. That is the fastest path to cash in this business. If I go talk to 50 people, I'm writing a policy today. End of story. And that's only going to take me a couple hours to do that. So in a couple hours, I can guarantee I'm making $100 or not $100. I'm sorry, $1,000 a day. Sometimes even 500, 1,000 a day. It's like it's easy money, but people don't want to do it. It's
for
hard
sure.
work. Yellow, we only do yellow 30 minutes to an hour a day, but yellow, like if I do it today, it might be 30, 60 days before it starts cash flowing well. Things like networking, email campaigns, like that's all yellow. You start an email campaign up. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we've got to warm up the emails, and then we got to start gearing it up, send out 10 a day, send out 20 a day. It can take 4 to 6 weeks to really launch a good email campaign. And then red finally is, but I guess on that yellow is certainly more scalable as far as ROI than that green activity. And you're getting your burn rate, your burnout rate is going to be much lower than red. You have no control over when the money comes in, no idea, but you just know when it does, it's going to come in big. So things like red could be like, for me, is social media, organic social media. I pay $0.00 on social media. I have a very strategic plan on there, and it took a little bit of time, but now I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars pouring in every week. And I mean, we're not too far off of every month off of organic social media stuff. And that's just that part of that plan. What about all the money we're making on other things? Like this hasn't even scaled for us yet, but it took time. I had no idea or control when that was going to happen. So that's what I really push agents to do, is like put that plan together and then take daily action on it. It will take less than half your day to follow through on all three of those components and guarantee your outcome today, tomorrow, and through your whole career.
I love that. That's so good. Red, yellow, green. So for a new agent, what does, or like just an agent in general, the red, yellow, green. So you said that takes about half the day. What do you recommend doing for the rest of the day?
Yeah, the things an agent should do. Number one, if you're doing all that, you should have policies to prepare, proposals to put together, follow-up calls to make, applications to submit. And anytime you're submitting applications, if you're in the life insurance and annuity space, I just like, if you're consistently submitting applications, you should be on the phone with underwriting and case management every damn day. You may not be checking on every policy every day, but we really push our agents to get on the phones every morning, first thing they come in. Insurance agents are lazy. So if I get on the phone first thing in the morning, I don't sit on hold ever. Phone rings, case manager, underwriters, they pick it up. I'm like, hey, I've got 6 policies. I need to know, like, where are we at on them? Are there any additional forms you're going to need? Did I miss a signature somewhere? Right. I just want that flow going. Like, that's the key to cash flow is making sure that's coming through. But it also helps you build a good SOP subset when we get to scaling our agency, because now that I've got this SOP subset, now as I scale, I can start plugging my team into it. I don't have to do that. I just need to ensure that my agency is performing that task to ensure that policies are getting issued on time. Customer experience is through the roof. You know, we have clients rave that, oh my God, this was the best life insurance or even annuity buying experience I've ever had. I had a client, she's like 70 something years old, sold her an annuity. She's in Oklahoma. I've never shook her hand. It was all over Zoom, the whole 9 yards. She's bought multiple annuities before. And this was literally just in the last month, about $380,000 annuity. And she's like, this was the best annuity experience I've ever had. And wow. It's like, we replaced an annuity. Her at-home advisor that lives just down the block sold her like 10 years ago, right? So, but a lot of that is because we're daily checking on these things. We just make sure the process flows. We don't sit in medical underwriting on anything for months and months and months. We issue a lot of medical policies, medically underwritten policies, faster than non-med policies are getting issued, just because of that follow-up rate. So,
yeah. I think so I'm curious to where you got you're different. I think you're not a constant person who's pushing I don't know, like I've seen multiple things, what you're doing, by the way, I really support it. And if you guys haven't already, check him out, follow him, Carson Porter on Facebook, all social medias, right? Carson Porter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Follow this dude because he's special, but he's very different because I don't know, like, where did you, or how did you, I guess, come up with your mindset or like how you look at the industry? Because I think it's very unique and different. Like, a lot of people are pushing IULs, and it's like, I always know to look to you of like, what's actually structured right? How do you actually structure it? When's the right time somebody's ready for an IUL? Because you see so many things like crazy. And honestly, I was one of those people. If I'm being honest, I had a few people call me out and was like, that's so not right. Because I was just like, that's what I was told. IULs are for everybody, right? But it's like, where did you learn all this stuff? Like, was it just from like trial and error? Did you have a great mentor? Like, talk to us about that.
Yeah. So early in the business, I actually was taught the same shit you were. Like, I was frankly taught really horrible things. And I actually don't think the people who taught me that were bad. I think they're sold down the river on it.
Yeah.
And they've convinced themselves it's a good thing. I didn't have a mentor. It took me years to figure this stuff out, a lot of self-study. And then frankly, I mean, you know, an average insurance agent in X amount of time, they're going to have so many at bats. I've had 10 times more at bats in the time I've been in business than anyone else who's been in business the same amount of time, because I stayed so focused on appointments. Like, I've had so many looks at so many things. But I think a lot of it too comes from, I got to give my old man props. Him and I haven't always gotten along, but was born and raised in the automotive repair industry. And that was the business I was in. I actually had a couple auto shops before insurance, and something he always taught my siblings and I growing up is that anything worth doing is worth doing right the first time, right? You don't throw Chevy parts in a Ford pickup. It just doesn't work. If you even get it out the door, it's going to come back. And so there was always this mentality and of do it right the first time and solve problems. Like, we're here to solve problems instead of sell policies. I hate selling policies. I did. There was a lot of times in those early, in that first year or two, when I sold a policy, I walked out of there and it's like, I straight up sold that bitch a policy. Like, they had no reason buying it. I sold it. I am so damn good. And I felt like absolute dog shit because in fact, we free looked at several policies right in that time period. Cause I was like, there has to be a better way. I want to solve real legitimate problems. Well, turns out real legitimate problems can't all be solved with IUL. They can't all be solved with term or whatever. But again, hailing back to my automotive days, I still have, I mean, I've spent over the years probably $250,000 on tools. You know, I've got a big Snap-on tool chest at home, and it's clear full, and all the scan tools and whatever. Each one does a different job, right? And that's how I really started to look at all these different policies and products and companies even, and all these different things, both inside and outside of insurance. They're different tools for the job. Let's start to understand, you know, what is the job and what's the best way to accomplish that job for this specific person in this specific scenario. And that's where a lot of that was born, was just kind of in that moment of kind of, again, inner turmoil of knowing I wasn't doing it right, but not knowing what was right. Just knowing that right meant utilizing what's at your disposal to actually make it happen. And then I went to work for probably about 5 years. I came in the office from 5, 6 a.m. I'd be in the office. And from 5 to 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., my phone was off, lights were off, doors were locked. I just studied 3 to 4 hours a day for 5 solid years. And that's where a lot of this came from. So.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because you learned yourself, like studying. You had people around, but then at the same time, I really love like you actually figuring it out yourself. Like, all right, I'm locking it. I'm just shutting everything off, and I'm focused of learning. I think that's one thing that I definitely need to improve on myself, but I think a lot of people as well need to just learn that self study. I was talking with Tracy Lounsbury, and he's like, one thing I would do if I was your age way back when, and it served him really well, is like studying 30 minutes to an hour a day, like just learning, looking up different things, looking up YouTube videos. How does this work? How does that work? And you'll just over time collectively start compounding like your knowledge, because knowledge really is power at the end of the day. So I love that. So talk to us about like scaling an agency. So you've obviously scaled multiple businesses. You've done it faster each time, every single time. What are some things that you've learned when scaling a business?
Process. Like, it's all about process and staying really, really on task with which point of the process you're at. And then I'm also a big believer in, again, anything that's worth doing is worth doing right the first time. So if I have no idea how the fuck to sell insurance, does it make any sense for me to go and recruit 30 people into the business and tell them they're going to make a fortune selling insurance? No. What it does is it makes an asshole and a liar out of me, frankly. Right. So I always approach it with this perspective of, if I'm going to scale, that means I have to bring people into the business. And if I'm going to bring them in the business, I have to expect them to win. Well, if I'm going to expect them to win, I better damn well be willing to show them how to win. And if I'm going to show them how to win, I better have won myself. Right.
Yeah.
And so it comes all the way back to that process of step number 1, learn to get in front of people systematically and enough people, more than enough people. Right. Step number 2, now we start developing more quality conversations that convert better. We start diving into some moderately advanced life and annuity strategies. And then these are kind of the 3 pillars in this step. Number 3 would be really starting to use systems, processes, and automations to increase our capacity to grow. And once we get all those in place, like if I can make 50 to 100,000 a year by just getting in front of enough people, I can make 200 to 300,000 a year by doing a better job of processing that same number of people. I don't even have to chase more prospects. I just do a better job of processing. Well, what is doing a better job of processing? It's having better systems and processes, having automation so I don't spend all my day doing menial tasks when I could be doing more appointments in a more timely manner, and developing my sales skills and my product strategy and knowledge and that stuff. That's how we develop that on the same number of prospects. Well, now once I have all that in place, I really have a machine that's working for me, right? So the next natural step beyond that is, again, move to another level of advanced strategy. We go from moderately advanced, things like infinite banking and tax-free retirement would be moderately advanced, to advanced strategies. Let's start talking about premium finance, non-qualified deferred compensation, split dollar planning, cash balance planning, and more. But now, because I have this machine there, and it's almost like 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a year on autopilot, I have the time and the mental energy to do that and do that right. And at the same time, I'm getting into that advanced stuff. Now I can start bringing in a team. And again, you need to build out a system and a process for bringing in a team so that they match your core values. They're invested in your core focus. And really the ultimate goal being everybody makes six figures year one. Like that should always be the goal. But you're able to plug them into like, look, I got in front of these people. It's going to take you 60 to 90 days to spin up your pipeline. Here's how you do it. Boom. Right. And as soon as they do that, cool. Here's the system, the process, and everything we use to start developing yourself to take you from 50 to 100 a year up to 2, 3, 400 per year. And you just keep plugging them into those pieces along the way. Once you do that with one person, you get them clicking down the road a little bit. Now you can bring on the next, get them clicking down the road. And then you bring on the next. The reality is each of your producers, when it comes to life insurance, each one of your producers, until they're making more than $250,000 a year, they should be doing their own paperwork. They shouldn't be hiring a CSR. That's lazy shit. How are you even going to teach a CSR how to do their job well if you don't even know how to do it? Right. So do a little bit, make $250,000 a year. And now once you have 2 or 3 people making $250,000 a year, hire an agency CSR to help with some of that back end and free up more of their time. And then you can bring in another person and another person, another person. It just keeps rolling on. Well, for you, as that agency builds, now you've got 5, 10 people in your organization, all of them making $100,000+ a year. You're picking up a 10, 20, 30% override.
Yeah.
Now you're able to step out even more and go to that final phase. We call it phase 4. And that's really get super advanced and then invest and divest are kind of the 2 biggest things. What we mean by that is along the way, you've been making some money. You're making hundreds of thousands. You probably got your own cash value policy, maybe some annuities, IRA, Roth IRA, all of this other stuff. But you need to start diversifying your income. Like you need to go start, if you're all about restaurant, go start buying some restaurants. Go get some Subway franchises. You need to diversify your income without leaving your agency. But then you also need to divest because there is going to come a part with your agency or a point with your agency where you're going to want to either sell it, succeed it to somebody in your friend or family circle, or just walk away from it altogether. Well, how do we start to build in those exit levers so that we're not selling a book of business? Because a book of business is only going to go at a 1.5 to maybe 3 multiple right now. Some of them will go at 3.5, depending on the part of the nation you're in and whatever. But when we sell an actual business has exit levers attached. Yeah. And those exit levers get us extra basis points. So for example, if I have a book of business with a well-developed CRM underneath it and everything's integrated and automated really, really flawlessly, I can get an extra 50 basis points. So 0.5% of say a $2, $3, $4, $5 million sale is a chunk of money. Yeah. Well, how can I get another 0.5%? Well, if I have plugged in team members that are going to go with the sell of the book, right? They're not going to lose their job when I sell it. They're going to keep their job. I'm going to negotiate it for them and sell my book at a higher price because of it, because they're going to keep guaranteeing not only the delivery of revenue from that business, but the increase in revenue of that business as well. These are exit levers. And when we hit that point, we're making $1 million+ a year. We want to start building that in because again, you're going to get to a point where you either want to step out of it, let somebody manage it. Cool. You need exit levers to do that. It's going to help you. Or you want to sell the agency altogether, or you want to succeed it to somebody in your family or whatever the case may be. Those exit levers help every single one of those scenarios. So that's when you really hit that point where it's like, hey, step out of your business and instead work on your business. Along the way, you've been working on your business anyways, right? Yeah. We're talking 1 to 3 hours per day, depending on the day through this whole time period. And this isn't 10 or 20 years, by the way. We're talking like 3 to 5 years to do this. That's all it takes if you really stay on task. So for 3 to 5 years, you're an hour to 3 hours a day of working on your business. But the rest of the time, you do need to work in your business. It's sweat equity, right? Yeah, big time. But at the end of that time period, now you get to say, hey, cool. We're flowing like we want to. We've got all the scale, all the revenue, everything's clicking along. My full-time job from now on is Chief Visionary Officer, and I'm going to do nothing but work on the business 24/7. And with all my spare money, I'm going to go invest other places. So
I love it. That's a great breakdown of just in terms of like, if you guys are looking to scale your business, the biggest thing is get you scaling how many people you're talking to every day and being able to actually scale your income. Then from there, actually bring in people. You have to win first, right? You have to win to bring other people in. Then you expect them to win and bring them into a system and process. And the biggest thing that I heard from you is just having systems and processes in place, because that is absolutely crucial. One, to be able to predict your income, and then be able to bring other people in and plug people in so that they could have a predictable income as well. So that's really good. I love that. What I want to change the subject a little bit here. What has inspired you to want to help a bunch of people with the Rev community that you have currently? Like, what inspired that?
I think there's several things. Being dropped on my face when I first got in the business is certainly one of those. I've got a chip on my shoulder, and it does break my heart that so many people come into this business and literally spend their life savings. You know, early in the business, I was knocking on the door of bankruptcy, foreclosure, divorce, and other things. And it was all because the money was bad, right? I couldn't figure out how to make money, and nobody was willing to really get their hands dirty and help me. They were willing to sit there and cheer me on, like, oh yeah, just go talk to people. Okay, well, what the fuck do I say? Where do I go? Like, who am I talking to? What do I even talk to them about? I'm a mechanic, for God's sake. You know, and I left a good or a good career as a mechanic to come and do this. And so it still pisses me off a little bit. So that's certainly there. I think the other side of it is just my goal. The whole reason I wanted to be a business owner in the first place. And that's because I was born and raised in the 80s, 90s. We had like Black Friday in 1989. You had the early like 93, 2001, 2007, 2013. A lot of folks don't remember that, but the Fed shut off or threatened to shut off quantitative easing for a short time, and markets crashed and everybody panicked. And then we have pandemics and all this shit. My whole life has been a series of all the adults and all the people you're supposed to look up to, even as a young kid, running around like chickens with their head cut off, screaming about how there's no hope, there's no opportunity. And it's always broke my heart. You know, when I was a 13-year-old kid, I wanted a dirt bike. So I started knocking doors in the neighborhood and changing oil on motorcycles and lawnmowers, and cleaning carburetors on weed eaters for extra money so I could buy a dirt bike. And then I got so busy doing it, I asked some friends to help me. I started paying them a little bit. And I couldn't ever understand the disconnect. Like, opportunities everywhere. You just got to go work for it.
Yeah.
So getting into business, when I opened my first auto shop, one of the things I really wanted to do, my wife was actually working for this dentist at the time. And he always did all these cool things for his employees, you know? And it was like, man, that's so fucking cool. Like, I want to do that for 100 people, but I don't want to just, because they frankly didn't pay their employees like amazing. They weren't bad. They were good to their employees, but it wasn't amazing money. It's like, I don't want to just like take them on a ski trip one weekend out of the year. I want to give them the ability to have the lifestyle they wanted, like 100,000+ a year. So I set this goal. I'm going to grow a chain of auto repair shops. I'm going to help 100 people make 100,000 a year or more. And I failed miserably at that. You know, we had some good auto repair shops, but scaling that was just out of this world hard. A lot of it because of the overhead and different things. When I got into insurance, I still kind of had that goal. In the beginning, it was like survival, but as soon as I figured out how to make money, it's like, okay, let's start bringing people on with this idea of 100 people, 100,000 a year or more. And I had this initial concept of building a mega agency, and I started to build one. In fact, we started building out an IMO. We got to the point where we had a couple hundred agents in this IMO, and I hated it. I was like, man, this sucks. I hate managing agents on a day-to-day basis. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I want to lead them, inspire them a little bit, give them the education they need, the resources, provide a community and a platform. And that's where Rev was born. It was like, okay, well, how about we quit taking a 20-30% override on you? We tell you, just go get contracted direct at the carrier, go anywhere you want to, and get that 30% of 100,000, by the way, is $30,000. And then we'll start this community with a few different levels. First level, it used to be 50 a month. Starting on April 1st, actually, it's going to be 100 a month. Second level is 500 a month. Third level is 1,000 a month. But it's like, all along the way, we'll help you earn the money to get there. And that's certainly less than 30% overrides on your business, right?
Big time.
And that's kind of where Rev was born, was let's create this community that's going to collaborate, be really invested in some solid core values to the point of, like, if someone's in violation, we'll hand them their money back and kick them the hell out. Like I just did that the other day with somebody. That's where it's, like I say, been born. And then at each of those levels, we're hitting on those 4 tiers: get in front of people, systems, processes, quality conversations, and product delivery, then advanced strategies and scaling, and then invest, divest. That's where it's all built off of. So
yeah, that is so good for newer agent out there, or somebody really wanting to actually make it happen and haven't seen it yet. What is, as we kind of wrap up here, what's something that you can share with them? Maybe a piece of encouragement, a piece of advice for them to actually start making money. What's one thing that you would leave them with?
Man, there's so damn many.
Right?
I think the biggest thing is that impact or income will follow impact. If you're chasing dollars, you're gonna chase dollars your whole life. If you start chasing impact and measuring impact and improving on your ability to deliver impact to your community, you will make more money. End of story. The money comes in this business with impact. And so you really need to develop a benevolent why. Like one of the guys that I didn't have mentors early on, but as I started doing self-study and the people I really liked plugging into, I went and sought them out, and in a lot of cases even paid them to mentor me. Right.
Yeah.
One of those gentlemen told me at one point, he's like, man, you got to have a benevolent why, because if your win is only ever tied to the sell of a policy, it's going to be a long and lonely road. The reality is that closing ratios are not 80%. Closing ratios are 20, 30%.
Yeah.
And if you're doing some marketing too, they're even less than that. You might need 100 no's to find 10 yeses to run 10 appointments so that you can get 2 sales, right? Like that's just how it works. And on those 2 sales, you just keep rinsing and repeating that. You make millions of dollars. If you'll build your model on that instead of on, well, if I talk to 8 people and sell 8 people, I'll make my paycheck, right? But you have a benevolent why. You ensure that every conversation you come into, whether somebody transacts with you or not, they are left edified. You taught them something, you improved their day. Maybe you gave them a compliment. Maybe you were able to just look them in the eye and say, Mr. Jones, what you already have going on is phenomenal. And it would make nothing but an asshole out of me to sell you something today. And now Mr. Jones gets to lay down at night feeling pretty damn good about the level of work he's put in. That is value without expectations.
True.
Right? And when you do that, the money just starts coming. So
I love it. Well, where can people follow you and just like even join the community? How can people do that?
Yeah. So on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. We don't do much on TikTok, but we're starting to pick that up a little. At cporter389. You can find me on all those platforms at cporter389. If you want to join our paid mentoring networks, revagencysyndicate.com. When you go there, it's going to ask you, where are you at? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Click on it. It'll tell you more about it. You can join right there. We have a free Facebook group, Winning at Insurance. It's the @ sign. Jump in there. I feel like I drop a crap ton of information in there, especially in regards to Index Universal Life. That's kind of my bread and butter.
Yeah. Guys, go check that out and join that group because it's phenomenal. I have learned a bunch from that of what's really true and what's not. And one thing that you can learn from that group and know that you're going to get the truth. So definitely go check that out.
Cool, man. Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for coming on here to another episode of Friday Fuel. I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. If you guys haven't already, go subscribe. If you guys are watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you guys are watching, send this to a friend. Appreciate you guys coming on here every single Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Appreciate it.